think we're going to see things that we haven't seen in our lifetime in the Middle East, and it could turn out very bad, but it could also turn out to be quite revolutionary and remake the map of the entire region. So here we are at the critical point. Should continue, does it have the ability to nullify the entire program, which was the object of this?
Hanson paints a chilling picture of a coming storm in the Middle East, one that could spiral into a catastrophic war no nation is truly ready to face.
We are at a historic time in the Middle East. Never in our lifetimes have we been closer to a complete revolutionary fervor that gives promise of normalcy for the Middle East, and never have we been in more danger of seeing the entire region blow up. What am I referring to? And that is the war right now between Iran and it is surreal. If we had this conversation 5 years ago, and I said to you, the Iranian nation that is huge compared to 10 times the population, the Iranian nation has lost all control of the Houthi, and they are themselves neutered. Their surrogates in the West Bank are neutered. They're gone as a fighting force. The formidable, the terrifying Hezbollah cadres, they're inert. There is no more Syria. The Assad dynasty, the pro-Iranian Assyria, it's in chaos, but whatever the chaos is, seems to be anti-Iranian. There is no Shia crescent, starting with Tehran all the way to the Mediterranean. Lebanon is free of Iranian influence, so is Syria. De facto will be.
The looming conflict between Iran and Israel isn't just another regional flare-up. It's a potential trigger for mass destruction, global economic collapse, and widespread chaos.
There is no Russian presence. It's not a patron. It's not a protector. It's not a power in the Middle East. It's tied down in. And Iran itself, the formidable powerhouse of the Middle East that evoked terror all over, has no defenses. And now we've seen 5 days of in which they have systematically dismantled all of the Iranian missile defenses. They have air defenses. They have dismantled the hierarchy. They have dismantled the people who are responsible for the program. And we're down to a single critical issue. They have suffered casualties. The Iranians have sent over 400 ballistic missiles and drones into it. 90% are stopped, but that 10% gets through. But here's the crux. All of this chaos and all of this will be for naught if Iran's theocracy emerges intact from this, and its infrastructure can either be quickly rebuilt, or there are elements of it that have been missed, and maybe there is enough fissionable material, if not already, soon to make another.
The looming conflict between Iran and Israel isn't just another regional flare-up. It's a potential trigger for mass destruction, global economic collapse, and widespread chaos. Hanson argues we've reached a critical juncture, a point where decisive action may be the only way to prevent an irreversible chain of devastation.
So here we are at the critical point. Should continue, does it have the ability to nullify the entire program, which was the object of this? Or must it rely on the bunker buster devices of the United States? And if the United States should try to go into these key facilities and fill them up with the ordnance and the aircraft that it has, which it lacks, will it be fighting an optional Middle East, of which the MAGA doctrine says no more forever, no more intervention in the Middle East, no more ground troops? Or can Trump say, I'm not an isolationist, I'm a Jacksonian. You should have known that when I took out Soleimani in my first term, when I took out Baghdadi, when I took out the Wagner Group. I don't like to intervene, but when people threaten the United States and our deterrence is a matter of conjecture, I want to ensure that they understand the repercussions. And so is there a fight between the isolationists and the Jacksonians, or is it just a minor group of people on the right who don't want any action at all? And we don't know the answer yet. But if this should end with the Iranian regime intact and the elements of its program recoverable, then in some ways it will be all for naught. And people will make the necessary adjustments in the Middle East. And it won't be necessarily, well, Iran is still very weak. They've lost all their surrogates, they have no air defenses, they've lost their media, they've lost their commanding. It will be more like, my gosh, Iran survived everything that, and by association, the United States threw at it. It's indestructible.
The terrifying truth is that while the world watches in silence, a war is brewing that could engulf cities, shatter alliances, and ignite a new dark age.
And so we're at a critical cusp. Do you risk more danger by taking out and eliminating the threat for good, and by association humiliate the theocracy to the point it can be overthrown? Or do you play it safe and have negotiations and allow the regime and the remnants to survive? I don't like forever wars. I don't like preemptive wars. I do not like the United States intervening anywhere in that godforsaken area. But if the war ends with the regime intact and a recoverable program, it won't just be back to square one. It will be a disaster. So we'll see what happens. And hold on, everybody. I think we're going to see things that we haven't seen in a lifetime in the Middle East, and it could turn out very bad, but it could also turn out to be quite revolutionary and remake the map of the entire region.
Hanson warns that years of escalating tensions, exacerbated by policies during Trump's administration, have pushed the Israel-Iran conflict to a dangerous brink, leaving the world vulnerable to an unprecedented crisis.
All we hear about Iran is that Donald Trump wants to start a theater-wide world. This is what we're hearing from Democratic senators. No American president has said, I am willing to negotiate more than Donald Trump with the theocracy. When we look at the Democratic Party, what do we find? We had a North Carolina representative. She recently posted a media photograph of Donald Trump's head next to a bloody guillotine with the idea that we need cuts. Think of that. This is an elected representative disseminating basically a call to the President of the United States, who had survived a year ago 2 targeted attempts. Then we had our own senator here in California, Alex Padilla. He deliberately did not wear his identification. In fact, nobody knows. I don't know. If I saw Alex Padilla on television, I wouldn't know he was our senator. He's never done anything. But nevertheless, he had no identification. He heard that Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, was going to have a press conference. He barges in. He disrupts it. He tries to make a scene. And what happens? The Secret Service doesn't know who he is either, so they restrain him, and then he becomes a folk hero with his street performance. Unfortunately for Mr. Padilla, he thought it would be a Cory Booker moment. Remember Cory Booker, 25 hours to filibuster nothing? There was no impending law. It was just Donald Trump is evil for 25 hours. He thought he would get the same media attention, but unfortunately there was the No Kings Parade and the Iran, and nobody really knew much about what he had done other than he'd made a complete fool out of himself. So and then we had this No Kings Parade, and it was really funded by multi-billionaire left-wing donors like Miss Walton, the heir to one of the heirs by marriage to the Walton fortune, Me Too, all of these groups. But what I don't understand, maybe you can help me, is no kings? Donald Trump has been subject to more lower court district injunctions in the first 5 months of his administration than Barack Obama and Joe Biden combined throughout their whole 12-year tenures. He has been the object of 5 seminal civil and suits when he was in the political wilderness. He was the subject of an effort to take him off the ballot. He was the only president ever in history to be impeached 2 times. King, he has had more judicial, executive, and congressional restraints placed upon him, which he has followed, than any president in history. We're going to warn you that we will stop this, and we will make arrests, and we will use tear gas. And you think it's going to be peaceful when people throw rocks at cars, innocent bystanders, and people wave the flag as they burn things?
Victor Davis Hanson warns that something worse is coming to Los Angeles, and now it's already arrived.
This weekend, we saw rioting in Los Angeles against ICE for its efforts to apprehend illegal aliens and employers who were hiring illegal aliens. And the riots started out initially without very many numbers, but then they turned violent. And by violence, I would define that as throwing rocks at cars, torching cars, defacing government buildings, and attacking law enforcement. But here's what's interesting. The mayor, Karen Bass, came down in her public comments on the side of the protesters who were protesting the idea of deportation at all, kind of like Kamala Harris used to march against deportation. And Gavin Newsom then gave a series of editorializations that I think have ruined his chances ever to be a serious national candidate. He said this was chaotic, this was reckless, and he said that they were just trying to have an arbitrary deportation quota.
Gavin Newsom has faced criticism from opponents who claim his immigration stance contributed to millions entering the country illegally.
Gavin, 12 million people came into the country illegally. That was 3 million a year. That was 250,000 per month. That was over 8,000 a day. They have not been able to deport more than 1,000 on most days, sometimes 500. They would have to deport 8,000 people every single day for 4 years to get back where we were with 20 million illegal aliens when Joe Biden entered office. So it's not a quota, it's an effort to stop an invasion. And it's a very funny invasion because now Gavin is mad that they nationalized the California Guard. Trump has that ability. And people said, no president, they have to request it. No, they don't. You think that JFK said to George Wallace when he nationalized the Alabama National Guard, said, would you please let us nationalize your guard so you can be removed from stopping African American people going to the University of Alabama? No. So what I'm getting at is, on one side of these violent acts, you have these protesters. And I'll just give a word of advice.
There have been reports of individuals in the US illegally who, during certain protests or demonstrations, have displayed foreign flags, such as the Mexican flag, while isolated incidents of violence occurred.
You're going to lose the optics, Democrats, left, and immigration protesters if you have a lot of people here illegally and they're waving the American, not the American flag, but the Mexican flag as they're committing acts of violence. Think of the logic. I am waving the flag of the country under no circumstances I want to return, but I am attacking the officers and the infrastructure of the country that under every circumstance I want to stay in. That might explain why in the midst of all of this negative publicity, a CBS poll taken to show that people were outraged showed that just the opposite. 54% of the American people are for continued deportations. And you think it's going to be peaceful when people throw rocks at cars, innocent bystanders, and people wave the flag as they burn things, the Mexican flag of a foreign country? You undermining your own argument. And what is your argument? I don't know what it is. What is your argument, Karen Bass, your mayor? Now that you're not in Ghana and you're here in the United States during a burning, is it burning is okay, whether it's burning a car or burning a whole neighborhood down, and you don't act? And it was pathetic. The chief of police of Los Angeles, I felt like it was some Soviet apparatchik keeps saying there is no violence, that we are very proud of First Amendment. And it's like, I was given a text that my job is in danger probably if I say the truth, because meanwhile the LA County Sheriff's was saying, we're going to warn you that we will stop this and we will make arrests and we will use tear gas.
And apparently, they witnessed a different kind of riot. One where the crowd seemed more in control of the streets than the Los Angeles Police Department itself.
And apparently they saw a different riot, and they were more in charge of that area of the rioting than the Los Angeles Police Department. But I guess Mayor Bass, they're scared, the LA police chief and the police hierarchy, because they see that when the fire chief objected to Mayor Bass being on, I don't know, a junket, or the deputy mayor being arrested for phoning in a threat, or the water and power director leaving a reservoir that was critical to the survival of Pacific Palisades empty and unattended for months, and fire hydrants not working, and they fired her. So I guess this police chief says, if I tell the truth that these people are violent and they are officers, and the mayor is doing nothing and the governor is doing nothing, I will be fired. So I will lie and say I am really impressed by the restraint of the protesters. Final bottom line, if you take an oath to enforce the laws of your state or the country, and you see people swarming detention centers, swarming the streets, obstructing traffic, burning cars, trying to injure people with rocks, and you do nothing, then you are forsaking your oath of office. And secondly, Mayor Bass, Governor Newsom, would you please tell us, what is your position on 12 million people who entered the United States illegally, who are residing illegally at a time when the country is running a $2 trillion deficit, and your state at one point recently owed $75 billion that it did not have? What is your solution? Is it to let 1 more million in, 3 more million in, 5 more million in? What is it? What is your solution to find the 300 to 500,000 people believed to have? Just tell us, what is your solution?
You have protesters, some reportedly violent, waving foreign flags while demanding not to be deported, even as fires burn behind them.
What is your solution when you have apparently violent protesters waving the flag of a foreign national country as a way of persuading us that we should not deport them, when they are burning things and committing violence about the country they want to stay in, but waving the flag of the country they do not want to return to? What is the position of the Mexican government? Because I can tell you that there is a bill right now, the big beautiful bill that will tax remittances, the $63 billion. And all this is going to do is give rise to voices who will say, I think we need a higher percentage to tax these remittances, because they're not getting the message. The people who are demonstrating and violent apparently think that we're going to subsidize them with social services to free up money so they can send to Mexico on tax $63 billion, their greatest source of foreign exchange, while they run a $170 billion trade surplus. Why the cartels between 60 and 80,000 Americans? That's an unsustainable situation, as are these riots. Bottom line, I think, Gavin Newsom, you took your recent effort to be moderate, centrist, your podcast, and you lit a fuse and you blew it up. Nobody in their right mind would ever vote for you for anything after you went into a volatile, dangerous situation and tried to pour gasoline on it by essentially saying you, the governor, will not do anything to restore order or quiet, and you sided with people who are committing violence against their fellow residents of Los Angeles. Why do we want to do that? There's all sorts of people waiting years to come to this country. We're getting to a critical mass where Trump just doesn't care. He's not going to have to go up for election again. So the whole Harvard Trump, Harvard Trump, Harvard Trump, Harvard Trump, I'm getting so tired of all my conservative fellow intellectuals, I'm not an intellectual, but pundits or whatever they are, and they always write this. Well, yes, Harvard has culpability, but Donald Trump is using a blunderbuss. He's using an axe when he should be using a surgical knife.